Max Verstappen's recent performances in Mexico and Austin have certainly drawn the spotlight, especially with the controversies surrounding his driving style. In Texas, Verstappen skillfully toed the line of the racing rules, engaging in a close duel with Norris. He pushed Norris to overtake outside the track, leading to a penalty. However, the narrative shifted as the spotlight turned to Mexico, where the stewards handed Verstappen two 10-second penalties. This has raised questions among the officials regarding Verstappen's approach and whether he might alter his racing style going forward. It will be intriguing to see how the FIA and stewards respond if Verstappen continues with such aggressive tactics. Will they interpret it as simply hard racing, or will they make an example of him to set a clear standard on track behavior? Verstappen's bold driving style has certainly been on display recently, and it's a strategy he needs more than ever. His team, which has lost some edge with the RP20, no longer dominating, has fallen to the third position behind McLaren and Ferrari. In the Constructors' Championship, this slump has left the Austrian team under immense pressure to improve. Despite the struggles in the Constructors' standings, Verstappen's position in the Drivers' Championship remains strong. With a 47-point lead and only 4 races left, including 2 sprint events, he is holding a considerable advantage. However, Johnny Herbert, a steward from the Mexican Grand Prix, doesn't believe Verstappen will adjust his racing style anytime soon. Elaborating on this, Herbert, a former F1 driver, shared his insights following an exchange with Verstappen over the recent controversial incidents and penalties. Herbert explained that the penalties imposed in Mexico are unlikely to deter Verstappen from pushing Lando Norris off the track if he sees it as necessary. Herbert hinted at Verstappen's intention to favor Ferrari by disrupting Norris's rhythm, potentially enabling Ferrari to secure a 1-2 finish. While Herbert understands Verstappen's strategic thinking, he doesn't agree with it, and neither do many fans. Norris, on the other hand, has frequently advocated for fair, clean racing, which is the kind of challenge he's hoping for. However, Verstappen's primary focus is to prevent Norris from closing in on him in the championship standings, even if that means adopting a more aggressive approach on track. This dynamic promises to bring intense and memorable battles in the remaining races. Herbert's assessment is spot on. Verstappen himself admitted that if he hadn't taken action in Turn 8 in Mexico, Norris would likely have won by gaining a second-place position behind the Ferrari duo, eventually passing them with ease. This situation undeniably puts the FIA in a challenging position to maintain fairness and objectivity. Verstappen's on-track actions have left some wondering if 10-second penalties might become more common if he keeps up this driving style. Interestingly, Red Bull's team principal, Christian Horner, and Verstappen's father, Jos Verstappen, both believe that Verstappen's aggressive approach won't change anytime soon. Horner explained that Verstappen will continue driving as he believes fits within the rules, which means pushing hard until he oversteps the boundary, at which point he'll face penalties. Horner even suggested that racing guidelines are becoming overly complex, causing frustration when teams feel compelled to refer to rulebooks on every defensive or offensive maneuver. He urges open discussions between drivers and stewards to establish clear boundaries before these final 4 intense races. Horner's view emphasizes a racing culture where drivers don't feel restrained by excessive regulations. This approach recognizes that every driver grows up with fundamental principles of racing, and complicating these with too many rules detracts from the spirit of competition. In Austin, Verstappen stayed within bounds, respecting the racing guideline of holding the apex when ahead, which allowed him to defend his position legally. However, in Mexico, his Turn 4 clash with Norris clearly crossed the line. Such incidents make a case for applying these penalties more consistently. The fear from some quarters is that Verstappen may intentionally push boundaries to undermine Norris's championship hopes. Right now, Norris would need to outperform Verstappen by 12 points in the remaining races to claim the title by a narrow margin. This target is critical for McLaren, which feels the sting of missed points from races like Silverstone, Canada, Hungary, and Monza. Meanwhile, some figures in F1 believe that the recent penalties in Mexico might force Verstappen and others to re-evaluate their approach in the upcoming races. Toto Wolff, Mercedes team principal, is one of those who believe that the recent rulings will prompt a change. He argues that the driver discussions and FIA's decisions might be enough to enforce stricter conduct, starting from the next race in Interlagos. Wolff is confident that Verstappen, knowing what's at stake, will drive with caution. Although Verstappen's 47-point lead seems comfortable, it could quickly vanish if a hard-fought maneuver ends in a DNF, something Verstappen cannot risk at this stage. Wolff explained that drivers naturally push to the limits of the rules, and Verstappen is no exception, often exploiting every regulatory allowance to its fullest. However, with the latest interpretation of racing conduct, drivers might approach competition differently. The stewards, according to Wolff, have clearly indicated that drivers pushing each other off track will now face substantial penalties. These new standards might signal the end of the once accepted racing style where drivers aggressively defended their positions. Reflecting on past seasons, Wolff pointed out that previous steward decisions often set a precedent, allowing certain behaviors to go unpenalized. Now, the steward's strict approach implies a shift where they will address incidents more stringently. For drivers like Verstappen, who have honed their aggressive style, this change may require significant adjustments. Wolff compared the situation to the 2021 and early 2022 seasons when Hamilton and Leclerc faced similar scrutiny in tightly contested races. Just as Hamilton adapted, Verstappen may need to do the same to avoid penalties that could impact his title bid. Jos Verstappen, however, believes his son won't alter his approach, regardless of external pressure. He suggests that just because certain stewards might not favor Verstappen's style doesn't mean he should change. Jos added that it's up to others to beat Verstappen on their own terms if they can. The elder Verstappen also pointed out that the composition of the stewards should be reviewed, hinting at possible biases if former drivers hold favorable views towards certain teams or races. Jos Verstappen's comments underline his belief that Max's aggressive approach is essential, especially given the Red Bull car's recent performance struggles. Jos argued that even if the stewards disagree with his son's tactics, Verstappen's style remains justified as long as he's fighting for the title with a less competitive car. This determination to win is, in Jos's view, non-negotiable, and he believes his son will continue racing as he always has, despite any criticism or penalties. The recent drivers' meeting appears to have echoed these concerns, with 19 out of 20 drivers reportedly agreeing that stricter guidelines should be enforced for the remainder of the season and into 2025. Russell voiced this sentiment, hinting that the changes were largely inspired by Verstappen's behavior. Russell emphasized that this new era of driving conduct would challenge Verstappen's inclination to push limits. Verstappen's calculated decision to ignore track boundaries in Mexico while helping Ferrari stay in the lead is an example of the bold tactics the new rules aim to curb. In future races, giving up a position gained unfairly might become the norm. Verstappen's refusal to concede his place, despite knowing he had crossed the line in Mexico, reflects the mindset of a champion. But as Herbert noted, such moves might not be tolerated much longer. Herbert, who will oversee the upcoming race in Brazil, expressed that the penalties issued in Mexico were warranted and aligned with established guidelines. He dismissed claims that the penalties were excessive, arguing that Verstappen's actions clearly crossed into unacceptable territory. Herbert made it clear that Verstappen's harsh, aggressive racing, especially when it endangers other drivers, won't be overlooked. The expectation is for racers to aim for victory cleanly, without relying on borderline tactics. As the season nears its close, Verstappen's reputation as an intense competitor remains intact, but questions persist. Will he change his approach as regulations tighten? And if he doesn't, will the FIA step in with even stricter enforcement? The F1 community eagerly awaits these answers, knowing that the future of fair competition could hinge on how Verstappen and the FIA navigate these crucial final races. As we approach the climax of this F1 season, the dynamics on the track have reached an intensity we haven't seen in a while. With Verstappen's relentless racing style under such close scrutiny, and a field of rivals eager to push him, we're on the edge of witnessing a new era of F1. Rules are evolving, drivers are adapting, and every decision by the stewards could set a precedent that defines the future of this sport. What do you think? Will Verstappen's fearless approach stand the test of these new regulations, or is it time for him to adapt and find new strategies to dominate the track? Let us know in the comments below. And if you think Verstappen should hold his ground no matter the cost, or if you believe the FIA's tightening grip is what F1 needs right now, we'd love to hear your take. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want to stay updated on all things F1, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and click the bell icon so you never miss out on our latest videos. Dive deeper with us as we cover every thrilling moment, from the next Grand Prix to exclusive insights that go beyond the race. For those who want to understand more about how these new regulations are reshaping the sport and what they mean for every driver on the grid, check out our latest video, which should be popping up on your screen right now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next race.